I don't see that one going the distance. So we'll wait and see. But yeah, I kind of welcome it. But the other big thing, I suppose, and this is something we could talk about between us and also on the chat, is that AJ will be officially working with Ben Davison for this fight. A lot of people saying they've only got 6 weeks together, but they've already been in the gym, working on stuff before Day of Reckoning was officially announced. The plan, from what we're led to believe from AJ and his team, is that he will go back and work with Derek James out in the US after this, but because of the short lead-up time, decided to stay local. That was what Tyson Fury said when asked about the link-up. He said, it's a good move for AJ. He gets to stay local, which I thought was an interesting thing to recommend it. But yeah, I mean, Harlow isn't a million miles away from Watford. If you get a good break on the motorway, you can get there pretty quick. So that's part of it. But yeah, I don't know about this constant chopping and changing of trainers, even though there's a pretty good reason this time around. I'm not sure going into what is essentially a make or break fight for AJ, because if he loses, the Deontay Wilder fight won't necessarily be there. And that's if Wilder wins as well, of course. I'm not sure if this is the best backdrop in which to enter the camp for it. But what's your view, Ayman?
Yeah, look, another thing on AJ's demeanor as well. Recently, that Louis Theroux interview, good watch there on BBC iPlayer, available for everyone to watch. If you're in the UK, you can catch it on. I'd say it's a good watch in terms of him saying that. I picked out from it saying, look, I don't quite love boxing because boxing doesn't love me either. So I can see Anthony Joshua being done with kind of wanting to speak as much, being done with want to be a certain way, being done with want to present himself a certain way, and just want to be all about the business here. So I get that side of him. Now, in terms of, look, I know there's kind of a battle between like old school way of thinking, and maybe new school. I'm more of the new school sense when it comes to trainer changes, and say, you've got one career. Why isn't a boxer not entitled to trainer hop, trainer shop? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So move on, move forward. Not everything sticks every time. So you have to take your opportunity, especially at this tail end of the career that we're on with Anthony Joshua, only getting older, looking to adapt here. You've got to get things right here. So if it wasn't working with Derek James, whether in the interim or for the foreseeable, then you've got to make that change. So we've made positive action there, gone to Ben Davison. Don't know if it will be a great fit. That remains to be seen. The other side of the equation here with this too, for him moving to Ben Davison alongside it being closer, is Anthony Joshua is someone who sought answers most famously or infamously on the way to the ring towards his fight with Usyk. It was at Tottenham Stadium, and he's asking Clifton Mitchell on how he should fight Usyk, which kind of put boxing fans in a confused state there. But joining up with Ben Davison, you've got a packet full of answers. You've got a research notes full of answers that comes in the package with Lee Wiley. They do their research, do the tapes. I'm not saying that other trainers don't do that, but that's very much a key element of their game planning. And I think that will do a lot to comfort AJ to know what his game plan is going into a fight with Otto Wallin, who has at the highest level caused problems for elite heavyweights.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one, because you say if it's not one with Derek James, he's proactive and made a change. But they're talking about going back to it for a logistical move. But then they're talking about working on power with Ben Davison as if that's his kind of specialty. And I don't know. I mean, I am comforted by the team at Ben Davison's gym surrounding AJ, like in the same way you are. We were there, or I was there. I can't remember if you were there with me. Maybe not that time. But I was at Ben Davison's gym not too long ago, and he was doing pad work with Lee Wood ahead of the Josh Warrington fight. And they were working on something specific over and over. I'm not going to say what it is, because I don't know if it's something he'll use in future and want me to say. But I then saw Lee Wiley going through a number of examples of elite fighters over the years using that same particular move or tactic or whatever, including Mayweather against Juan Manuel Marquez, which was a fight that I was at, luckily enough for me. And it just, the level of detail involved and how, I don't know, how much preparation had gone into just this one small element of the game plan really impressed me. And I think to have that team, that cohesive unit working hard, would be a benefit to pretty much any fighter. So that does comfort me as well. Let me just have a look at the chats. I'm aware that I may have frozen briefly on screen, but hopefully everyone can still hear me out there. It says Matthews Masternak, he's the king of the conspiracy theory, says, was it contract A would own questions from Eddie, stretching out Eddie's time on the main stage before Frank ran with proceedings? Boxing 24/7 says, if AJ beats Wallin and can fight Hrgovic next for the vacant IBF, does he do that instead of fighting Wilder? Makes sense to demand more of Wilder's purse, but would delay it even further. Yeah, I mean, I've seen that theory from a lot of people, actually, that AJ could skip the queue. Well, it's not really skipping the queue, is it? Because he will take Wallin's position as IBF number 2, which he earned in that eliminator out in Turkey. So, yeah, it could be AJ Hrgovic next, but it would delay the Wilder fight, which is the biggest money fight out there. But I guess, as you said there, if AJ goes into the fight as a reigning world champion, it does boost his negotiating position to fight Wilder. Jedi 420 UK says, AJ is a 2-time champion. Does a trainer make a lot of difference, really? I think having the right fit with the trainer can make the difference. You know, someone that he's going to listen to both in camp and in the corner could make a difference. Not necessarily teaching things he doesn't already know, but reminding him of the things that made him great in the first place, perhaps. Icon Canadian says, if Otto fights the same way he fought against Tyson, he'll be on top, no doubt. I'm not sure about that. I think if he's overly aggressive and rough against AJ, he could get taken out. I think AJ will respond in a different way to Tyson Fury. Tyson got on toes. That version of Tyson hadn't yet linked up with Sugar Hill. That version of Tyson got on his toes, tried to avoid too many exchanges, especially after getting cut. I think AJ, we've seen in the past, when he's hurt, he springs into action. When he's roughed up or when he's getting bullied, he can respond with big power punching combinations. So I'm not sure if Otto should try and fight the same way as he did against Fury. Boxing 24/7 says, of course, fighters should be able to change their team, but when it's so regular and after every performance, it makes fans think they're not accountable and not seeing themselves as the common denominator. Yeah, I mean, I guess what you're saying there is, should AJ look in the mirror and say, are you the problem? But he's trying to find a formula that works. And this is a crucial part of his career. He's already been 2-time unified world champion, of course, but he's looking to get to a position where he can get those big money fights. And he might only have about 5 fights left, maybe fewer than that. So it is important he gets it right, but I don't think the constant change is helpful. North London says, the new AJ, he's got a new trainer, AJ trying to learn new boxing skills again. Yeah, I think there's probably an element of sarcasm in that comment, North London, but I understand what you're saying. Boxing 24/7 says, with AJ being accused of overthinking, does a team that breaks things down to such a degree make him even more hesitant? I would argue the other side of that having the team that are concentrating on those little details takes that burden off of him. You know, it makes it easier for him because they'll just distill it into 1 or 2 key pieces of information he needs. Like Lee Woods talked to me about this before. They'll prepare like a whole book of stuff that he needs to know for the fight, but he won't read all of it. It'll already be distilled into a number of bullet points, and then he'll just take the elements that are relevant to him and incorporate it into his game plan on the night. So I think it might actually make the thinking more simplified for AJ rather than harder. Ayman, what's your thinking? You know, I see you put the poll out. Is it a good fit for AJ, Ben Davison? Are they a good match, yes or no? Please do vote. But Ayman, what do you think? If you had to pick now, is it a good match in your mind?
I'm really hesitant to give an answer just because it's all kind of, you know, there are very few fighters or there are very few coaches right now who actually game planned for Otto Wallin, and Ben Davison can count himself as one of those who has game planned for Otto Wallin. Now, it wasn't a great performance from Tyson Fury in that fight where he on another night, he might have found himself on the end of defeat there too. Tyson Fury was able to adapt at that point and get the victory. Maybe that was down to Ben Davison in the corner as well too. Maybe we should be giving him that credit, but you know, I think that part of it, like you mentioned there, really is what AJ's seeking here, that bit of knowledge, those gaps in knowledge where he needs a fresh pair of eyes where he can throw out all the questions that he has about a certain fighter and have that answered because the research has been done, because the game plans have been done. He'll know what he's doing going into it. He's used the game plans before. I believe it's been reported here that in his previous fight with Robert Helenius, Anti Joshua had sought the advice of Ben Davison and his team, and they set up the game plan for the Helenius fight to deliver the knockout to Helenius the way it was down to the body and up to the top of the head. So he's seen that, he's acted upon it, he's affected it by getting the knockout, and it's worked for him. That's given him the confidence to say, okay, I'm going to take this a step further and use this for my camp now for the next fight against Otto Wallin. They've got the experience of fighting Otto Wallin. They've got the experience of adapting to Otto Wallin when it hasn't gone right. They've got the experience of having a boxer who can box against Otto Wallin, who's also a boxer there. Anthony Joshua's now trying to box more, not be a knockout merchant, and trying to box better and box his way to a victory against southpaws who I can't say he's had problems against, because he's only fought the best southpaw in the division in Alexander Usyk. But southpaws generally seem to be something where you've got to have different facets to your game to defeat them. For a big heavyweight like Anthony Joshua, for a big not 12-round fighter, as he self-proclaimed Anthony Joshua here. So he's got the feeling that he's got to get the game plan right. He's got the feeling that Ben Davison, Lee Wiley, and the team there will get the game plan right. I just don't know. The proof is genuinely in the pudding with this one, because it's such an intriguing matchup of stars. I do know that other heavyweights have been pitched as well towards going to Ben and trying Ben out before. Some of those heavyweights who I won't mention here, I think would have been a terrible match for Ben Davison. But this one might be one that does work.